Hello, everyone. I am the great and powerful Meeple, reading to you tonight the greatest rules of all time, the Supercell Terms of Service. The terms of this agreement govern the relationship between you and Supercell OY, a Finnish company, business ID 2336509-6, having its registered office in what the fuck? That's a long ass fucking name. Helsinki, Finland. Hereafter Supercell or us or we regarding your use of Supercell games, stores, sites, and related services. Use of the service is also governed by Supercell privacy policy and other relevant policies which are incorporated herein by reference. Before accessing or using the service, including browsing any Supercell website or accessing a game, you must agree to these terms of service and the privacy policy. A guest account may be created for you for the use of the service, and you may also be required to register an account to the service. Collectively, account. These accounts include, for example, game accounts and Supercell ID. By using or registering for an account or otherwise using the service, you affirm that you are the legal age. I don't know why it made so much. I don't know why I did that. A majority in your country of residence. If you are not, your legal guardian must review and agree to these terms of service. By installing, using, or otherwise accessing the service, you agree to these terms of service. If you do not agree to these terms of service, please do not install, use, or otherwise access the service. Use of the service is void where prohibited. Important notice, for US and Canadian residents, you also agree that disputes with Supercell must be resolved on an individual basis through final and binding arbitration as described in Section 8. Dispute resolution, one of my favorite rules. Bend over, bitch. Supercell reserves the right at its discretion to change, modify, and or remove portions of these terms of service. Why? What? Its privacy policy and other relevant Supercell policies at any time by posting the amended terms of the service. You will be deemed to have accepted such changes by continuing to use the service. If at any point you do not agree to any portion of then current version of our terms of service, the Supercell privacy policy or any Supercell policy, rules, or code of conduct relating to your use of the service, your right to use the service shall immediately terminate. And you must immediately stop using the service. Go fuck yourself. 1. Using the service. 1.1. Your right to use the service. Subject to your agreement and continuing compliance with these terms of service and any other relevant Supercell policies, you have the non-exclusive, non-transferable, subscribe to Spoob. That's a good one. Thank you, Supercell. Revocable and limited right to access and use the service for your own non-commercial entertainment purposes. Like gooning. Gooning is my favorite rule. You agree to not use the services for any other purpose. The following restrictions apply to use of the service. You accept full responsibility for any authorized use of the service by minors. What? You are responsible for any use of your credit card or other payment instrument such as PayPal by minors. I don't like when Meeple says minors. God. You shall not or attempt to purchase, sell, rent, or give away your account, create an account using a false identity or information, or on behalf of someone other than yourself. You shall not use the service if you have previously been removed by Supercell or previously been banned from playing any Supercell game. You hear that, Clash Royale pro players who are trading accounts? You got fucked. Too bad they're not enforcing these fucking rules. You shall not use the service to advertise or solicit or transmit any commercial advertisements, including chain letters, junk or spam emails, or repetitive or misleading messages to anyone. Login information and your account. You may be required to select a password for your account, or you may use other credentials to access the account login information. You shall not share the account or the login information, nor let anyone else access your account or do anything else that might jeopardize the security of your account. In the event where you have become aware, oh god, the text is really small, or reasonably suspect any breach of security, including without the limitation of any loss, theft, or unauthorized disclosure of the account information, you must immediately notify Supercell and modify your login information. They're not helping. What the fuck? You are solely responsible for maintaining the confidentiality of the login information. And you'll be responsible for all uses of the login information, including purchases, whether or not authorized by you. What the fuck? You are authorized for anything that happens through your account. Supercell reserves the right to remove or reclaim any usernames at any time and for any reason, including but not limited to by claims of a third party that a username violates the third party's rights. Unless you are using a Supercell ID, the service supports only one account per game on a supported device. Supercell ID. Supercell ID is a service that allows you to safeguard your game account and easily play the Supercell games with your account on all your mobile devices. In order for us to safeguard your account security and privacy, you will not be able to disconnect Supercell ID for your game account. Sorry, not gay account, game account. Not gay. Once you sign up for Supercell ID. If you have any questions about Supercell ID, you can contact us through the support features within your Supercell game. Use limitations. Any use of the service in violation of these use limitations is strictly prohibited. It can result in the immediate revocation of your limited right and may subject you to liability for violations of law. You hear that, Lori? You can put some people in fucking prison for this shit. That's crazy. God, my fucking Meeple's dying right now. Help. Help! You agree that you will not, under any circumstances, number 1, engage in any act that Supercell deems to be in conflict with the spirit or the intent of the service or make improper use of Supercell supportive services. Use or take part, directly or indirectly, in the use of cheats, exploits, automation software, emulators, bots, hacks, mods, or any unauthorized third-party software designed to modify or interfere with the service, any Supercell game or games or any Supercell game experience. But what? That's hypocritical as shit! My entire game data is about cheating! So am I banned, Supercell? You better change these fucking rules. Number 3, modify or cause to be modified any files that are a part of the service or any Supercell game without Supercell's express written consent. You hear that? You need them to write you a letter. And put that shit in the mail. Number 4. Oh my god, I'm doing this all shit in one take. Whew, this is gonna be a long fucking video. This is all in one take, by the way, gamers. And I know you guys are sleeping to this. Hopefully you guys are sleeping to this. That'd be so fucking funny. The rules! Okay. Number 4. Disrupt, interfere with, or otherwise adversely affect the normal flow of the service or otherwise act in a manner that may negatively affect other users' experiences when using the service or playing Supercell games. That includes win trading or includes win trading and any other manipulation of ranking, taking advantage of errors in the service to gain an unfair edge over other players, and any other act that intentionally abuses or goes against the design of the service. Disrupt, overburden, or aid in assist in the disruption or overburdening of any computer or server used to offer or support the service of any Supercell game environment. Number 5. Institute, assist, or become involved in any type of attack, including without limitation distribution of a virus, denial of service attacks upon the service, or other attempts to disrupt the service of any person's use or enjoyment of the service. Number 6. attempt to gain unauthorized access to the service, accounts registered or used by others, or the computers, servers, or networks connected to the service by any means other than the user's interface provided by Supercell, including but not limited to by circumventing or modifying, attempting to circumvent or modify, or encouraging or assisting any other person to circumvent or modify any security devices or software that is a part of the service. Post any information that is abusive, threatening, obscene, defamatory, libelous, or racially, sexually, religiously, or otherwise objectionable or offensive, or engaging in ongoing toxic behavior, such as repeatedly posting information on an unsolicited basis. So when you thumbs down when I miss a goal in Brawl Ball, you're banned. I'm telling. They're not doing anything about it. They're not doing shit, man. Please enforce your rules, Supercell. Did I just fucking cry? What the fuck? Post any information that contains nudities, excessive violence, or offensive subject matter, or contains a link to such content. What? Is this in-game or out of game? I know that Supercell has been flagging a lot of artists on Twitter regarding some safe for work art, but all the not safe for work fan art of children is just running rampant. That's fucking weird. Attempt to or harass, abuse, or harm, or advocate, or incite harassment, abuse, or harm of another person, group, including Supercell employees, including Supercell's customer service representatives. How far are we? We're almost done. Okay, no, we're not even like a fourth of the way done. God. Make available through the service any materials or information that infringes copyright, trademark, patent, trade secrets, right of privacy, right of publicity, or other rights of any person or entity impersonates of any other person, including without limitations of Supercell employee. May not reverse engineer, decompile, disassemble, or decipher, or otherwise attempt to arrive the source code for any underlying software. You fucking hear this, Clash Mini Reborn? This is why I can't make videos of your fucking game. I'm gonna read this one more time. Reverse engineer, decompile, disassemble, decipher, or otherwise attempt to derive the source code. Does this also affect the Brawl Star? No. Oh god. Ew. Underlying software or other intellectual property used to provide the service of any Supercell game, or to obtain any information from the Supercell from the service or any Supercell game using any method not expressly permitted by Supercell. Solicit or attempt to solicit. Colette's the last what? Login information or any login credentials or personal information from other users of the service of any Supercell game. Collect or post anyone's private information, including personally identifiable information, whether in text, image, or video form, identification documents, or financial information through the service. Use any Supercell game for gambling, betting, or any similar activity which prizes or awards can be won directly or indirectly, including betting on the outcome of matches in which you participate as a player, irrespective or whether or not if there's a fee or stake involved. Use the service in any way that will violate any export controls, anti-money laundering rules, economic sanctions, or similar laws or regulations, including but not limited to those provided by the United States of America or the European Union. Supercell reserves the right to determine what conduct it considers to be in violation of the rules, or use outside the intent of the spirit. That's a typo. Or otherwise outside the intent or spirits of these terms of service, the service itself. Supercell reserves the right to take action as a result, which may include terminating your account and prohibiting you from using the service in whole or the part. Make another account, what the fuck? 1.2, suspension and termination of accounts and service. My favorite, banning people. Without this is all in caps. Holy God. Okay. Okay. I'm not doing a take two. I'm not pausing. I'm not gonna reselect. This is all one file. I need to yell this shit out. This shit is in all caps. Without limiting any other remedies, Supercell may limit, suspend, terminate, modify, or delete accounts or access to the service or portions thereof with or without notice to you or to you if you are or Supercell suspects that you are failing to comply with these terms of service, or for any actual or suspected illegal or improper use of the service, you can use your username and persona in the service as a result in the account termination of limitation, as well as any benefits, privileges, or individual items and purchased virtual items associated with your account to use the service, and Supercell under no obligation to compensate you for any losses or results. Without limiting or our other remedies, we may limit, suspend, or terminate the service and accounts or portions thereof, prohibit access to our games and sites and their consent, servicing and tools, delay or remove hosted content, and take technical and legal steps to prevent users from accessing this service if we believe that they are creating risk of possible legal liabilities, infringing the intellectual property rights of third parties, or acting inconsistently with the letter or spirit of our terms and policies. Additionally, we may, in appropriate circumstances, at our sole discretion, suspend or terminate accounts of users who may repeat infringements of third-party intellectual property rights. Supercell reserves the right to terminate any accounts that has been inactive for 180 days. Finally, okay, it's okay. We're done with the whole. Here, if you guys just want to see this so far, this is where we're at right now. Let me move over here. This is all caps. I don't know if you guys are even watching this at this point. I think I was doing. I'm not clicking. If this video gets 1,000 likes, then I will click the link. Then we'll go from there. This is number 2. What the fuck? All right, let's get back to the ASMR. Number 2, ownership. Subsection 2.1, games and service. All rights, title, and interest in and to the service, including without limitation to any game's titles, computer code themes, objects, characters names, stories, dialogues, catchphrases, concept. What? Wait. Games and service. All rights, title, and interest in and to the service, including without limitation to any games, titles, computer code, themes, object, characters names, stories, dialogues, catchphrases, concepts, artwork, animations, sounds, musical compositions, audio-visual effects, methods of operation, moral rights, documentation, in-game chat transcripts, character profile information, recording of games played using a Supercell game client, and the Supercell game clients and server software are owned by Supercell. Supercell reserves all rights, including without limitation, all intellectual property rights or any proprietary rights in connection with its games in the service. Isn't that kind of crazy how, like, the whole Eric OneHive situation, nothing happened from that? That's so fucking funny. 2.2, accounts. Okay, Meeple, give me strength. Okay. Rules. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary herein, you acknowledge and agree that you shall have no ownership of other property interests in the account, and you further acknowledge and agree that all of the rights, trans rights included, here and to the account that shall forever be owned and inure to the benefits of Supercell. 2.3, virtual content. Supercell owns, has licensed, or otherwise has the right to use all of the content that appears in the service or in Supercell games, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary herein. You agree that you have no right or title into any of the content that appears in the service, including without limitation to the virtual items, content, features, goods, services, or currency appearing or originating in any Supercell games, whether earned in the game or purchased by Supercell, or any attributes associated with the account or stored in the device. So you hear me? To the people out there in my comments saying that I'm Allie's husband, or I'm married to Colette, or Melody can sit on my face, that is not your woman, it is Supercell's woman. He is simply pimping all of them out to you, the users, to goon. 2.3, virtual content. Number 3, user content. 3.1, submission of user content. User content means any communications, images, sounds, and all the material, data, and information that you upload or transmit through a Supercell game client or the server or the service, or that users upload or transmit using without limitation any chat text by transmitting or submitting it. God, fucking get on with it. Under use the serve, you affirm, represent, and warrant that the transmission or submission is A, accurate, and not confidential and misleading. B, not in violation of any laws, contractual restrictions, or other third-party rights. That you have the permission from any third party whose personal information or intellectual property that is compromised by the user content. C, free of viruses, adware, spyware, worms. Ripka's going crazy over that. Or any malicious code. And D, you acknowledge and agree that any of your personal information within such content will at all times be processed by Supercell in accordance with its privacy policy. Are you guys still here? Comment 3.11. Okay, 3.1.1 point. Now be sure to heart your comment. I don't know who the hell is still here. Content screening. Supercell assumes no responsibility for the conduct of any user submitting any user content and assumes no responsibility for monitoring the service of inappropriate content or conduct. We do not and cannot pre-screen or monitor all user content. Your use of the service is at your own risk, and by using the service, you may be exposed to user content that is offensive, indecent, or otherwise not in line with your expectations. You bear all risk associated with the use of the user content available in its connection within the service. At our discretion, our representatives or technology may monitor and or record your interaction with the service or communications, including without limitation chat text, where you are using the service. By entering into these terms of service, you hereby provide your irrevocable consent. What the fuck? Next time I ask Gamer for consent, I'm gonna ask for irrevocable consent. May I please receive your irrevocable consent for banging. To such monitoring and recording, you acknowledge and agree that you have no expectation of privacy concerning the transmission of any user content, including without limitation chat, text, or voice communications. Supercell reserves the right in its sole discretion to review, monitor, prohibit, edit, delete, disable access to otherwise make unavailable to any user content, including without limitation to your user content, without any notice or any reason, for no reason at any time. If at any time Supercell chooses in its sole discretion to monitor the service, Supercell nonetheless assumes no responsibility for user content and assumes no obligation to modify or remove any inappropriate user content. We have the right, but not the obligation, in our sole discretion to edit, refuse, post, or remove any user content. 3.2. Information use by other members of the service. 3.2.1 Public Disclosure. The service may include various forums, blogs, and chat features where you can post user content, including your observations, comments on designated topics. Supercell cannot guarantee that other members will not use the ideas and information that you share. Therefore, if you have an idea or information that you like to keep confidential, don't fucking say it. What the fuck? Don't be fucking stupid. Sorry, I'll reread that. Therefore, if you have an idea or information that you would like to keep confidential or don't want others to use, don't post it on their service, you fucking dumbass. Supercell shall have no responsibility to evaluate, use, or compensate you for any ideas or information that you choose to submit. 3.2.2 Responsible for your own content. You are solely responsible for the information that you post on through the connections with the service and that you provide to others. Supercell may reject, refuse to post, or delete any user content for no reason, including but not limited to user content that are in the sole judgment of Supercell violates these terms of service. Oh my god. I am not even fucking done yet. Oh, Jesus. 3.2.3 Your license to Supercell. You hereby grant to Supercell an irrevocable, perpetual, transferable, fully paid up, royalty-free, worldwide license, including the rights to sub-license and assign to third parties, and right to copy, reproduce, fix, adapt, modify, create, derivative, works from, manufacture, commercialize, public, distribute, sell, license, sub-license, transfer, lease, transmit, publicly display, publicly perform, or provide access to electronically broadcast, communicate to the public by telecommunication, display, perform. You further hereby grant to Supercell the unconditional, irrevocable right to use and exploit your name, likeness. What? You further hereby grant to Supercell the unconditional, irrevocable right to use and exploit your name, likeness, and any other information or material, including in any user content and in connection with any user content, without any obligation to you, except as prohibited by law. You waive any rights of arbitration, or Yeah, 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 I thought I was joking with that. Or any moral rights you may have in your user content, regardless of whether your user content is altered or changed in any manner. Supercell does not claim any ownership rights to your user content, and nothing in these terms of service is intended to restrict any rights that you may have to use to exploit your user content. What? Supercell has no obligation to monitor or enforce your intellectual property rights to you and your user content. 3.3 User interactions. You are solely responsible for your interactions with other users of the service and other parties with whom you interact through the service and any Supercell games. Supercell reserves the right and have no obligation to become involved in any way with these disputes. You will fully cooperate with Supercell to investigate any suspectful, unlawful, fraudulent, or improper activity, including without limitation, granting Supercell access to any password protected portions of your account. If you have a dispute with one or more users, you release us and our officers, directors, agents, subwriters, subway surfers, subsidiaries, joint ventures, and employees, form claims, demands, and damages, actual and consequential of every kind of and nature, known and unknown, arising out of in any... What the fuck? That's crazy. Okay, can do with such disputes. Fees and purchase terms. This is for the people who refund brawl passes. 4.1 purchases, so listen up, you fucking brokies. In this service, you may purchase with real-world money, that's their terms, not mine, real-world money, a limited, personal, non-transferable, non-sublicensable, revocable right to use a virtual currency, including but not limited to virtual cash or diamonds, Boom Beach reference, all for use in Supercell games. B. Virtual in-game items, content or features, and C. Other goods and services. Points A to C are jointly referred as virtual items. You are only allowed to purchase virtual items from us, from our authorized partners, through the service and not in any other way. You expressively agree that you will start the performance of these purchase agreements of virtual items or any digital content before the expiration of the statutory withdrawal period defined in applicable laws. These are some big ass fucking words. You give explicit prior consent. Explicit prior consent. Fuck. Damn. I want a challenge for you. I want y'all to go up to your girl or your guy, you know, and say like, I want explicit prior consent. That's what we need. That's what we gotta do. Explicit prior consent that the content you have purchased will be delivered to you before the withdrawal period ends, and you thereby lose the statutory right of withdrawal. Supercell may manage, regulate, control, modify, or eliminate virtual items at any time with or without notice. To the fullest extent under applicable law, Supercell shall have no liability to you or any third parties in the event that Supercell exercises such any rights. The transfer of virtual items is prohibited except where expressly authorized in the service. Other than expressly authorized by the service, you shall not sell, purchase, redeem, or otherwise transfer virtual items to any person or entity or attempt any of the aforesaid, including but not limited to Supercell, any user of or any third party. All purchases and redemption of virtual items made through the service and final and non-refundable except where required under applicable law. See our parents' guide for more information regarding purchases made by minors. The provision of virtual items for Supercell games is a service provided by Supercell and commences immediately upon acceptance of Supercell of your purchase. 4.2 Payment of fees. I haven't done any snorts yet. Oops. You agree to pay all fees and applicable taxes incurred to you by anyone using an account registered to you. Supercell may revise the pricing of the virtual items offered through the service at any time. You acknowledge that Supercell is not required to provide a refund for any reason. Fuck. And that you will not receive money or any compensation for unused virtual items when account is closed, whether such closure was voluntary or involuntary. Number 5, updates to the service. You understand that the service is an evolving one. Supercell may require that you accept updates to the service in Supercell's games that you installed on your device or computer. But what? Wait, okay, there's Google Play games now. Like, they just say you can't use emulators, so what? I guess this was updated before Google Games came out with them. Okay, cool. You acknowledge and agree that Supercell may update the terms of service of Supercell games with or without notifying you. That's scary. That's very fucking scary. Wow. You may need to update third-party software from time to time in order to receive the service and play Supercell games. But no one cares about it. No one's going to read it. Number 6. Disclaimer of warranties. There's a warranty in this? Damn, okay. Without limiting Supercell's liability under Section 7 below, the services provided on as-is and as-available basis for your use without warranties of any kind, express or implied, including without limitation to the warranties of merchantability, fitness, or any particular purchase titled non-infringement, and those arising from the course of dealing or usage of trade, Supercell does not warrant that you will be able to access or use the service at any time or locations of your choosing, that the service will be uninterrupted or error-free, that defects will be corrected, or that the game or the service are free of viruses or any harmful components. Some jurisdictions do not allow the exclusion of certain warranties. Accordingly, some of the above disclaimers may not apply to you. Number 7. Limitation of liability, sole and exclusive remedy in that's defecation. Okay, that's just defecation. I'm going to call it defecation. To the maximum extent permitted by law, Supercell shall not be liable to you or any indirect, incidental, consequential, special, punitive, or any similar damages, including but not limited to loss of revenue, lost profits, lost data, or business interruption of any intangible losses, however such losses are qualified, arising out of the related in any way of the terms of service, or the service itself, whether based on the contract, tort, or any legal theory, and whether or not Supercell has been advised of the possibility of such damages. To the extent not prohibited by law, Supercell shall not be liable to you for you to claim that amount you have been paid in Supercell in accordance with these terms of service in the 6 months immediately preceding the date on which you assert a claim. You acknowledge and agree that you have not paid anything to Supercell during such time period. Your sole remedy and Supercell's exclusive liability for any dispute with Supercell is to stop giving the service and cancel your account. So if you fucking refund a Brawl Pass, fuck off. Nothing in these terms of service shall affect the statutory rights of any consumer or exclude or restrict any liability resulting from gross negligence or willful misconduct of Supercell, or for death or personal injury arising from any negligence or fraud of Supercell. You agree to indemnify, defend, and hold Supercell and their officers, directors, agents, subsidiaries, joint ventures, and employees harmless from any claims, demands, damages, or any losses, including reasonable attorney fees. They're gonna sue you. Asserted by any third party resulting from arising from your use of service or breach of any service to you through the terms of service. However, the foregoing does not apply to the in-service infringing rights. That is not a true to the intention or negligent behavior. Number 8. Dispute resolution. You and Supercell agree that the processes for dispute resolution described in this agreement will apply to any dispute claims related to the terms of service, the privacy policy, or the service. Disputes including any claims of any kind, including but not limited to legal, equitable, or statutory claims arising from any time, including before we entered the agreement. What? Including before we entered into this agreement. Processes for dispute resolution will even apply even if you stop using the account, delete your account, or stop using the service. Sections 8.1 to 8.7 apply to you if you're a resident of the United States or Canada. They do not apply to you if you're a resident of any other country. Oh, damn. 8.1 Informational Dispute Resolution. Any issue that a customer service can't resolve, you and Supercell agree to informally resolve any dispute directly with each other, or at least 30 days before starting the arbitration. The informal dispute resolution process starts with you giving Supercell's written notice of the dispute through legal request at supercell.com, dispute notice. In your dispute notice, you agree to include your name, any relevant Supercell game account names, or Supercell ID that you use, mailing address, how we can best contact you, and your legal address, by the way, and how you like Supercell to resolve the problem. I want $1 million. Shut down Squad Busters, actually. If Supercell has a dispute with you, Supercell will send its notice of dispute to any email address you've associated with your Supercell ID or Supercell game account. All applicable statutes of limitations will be considered told beginning of the day a dispute notice is received and described herein, except in this case of mass arbitration, see below. This I said trolling. Tolling shall either end on the date of arbitration is filed 30 days after the submission of the dispute notice, whichever is earlier. If your problem cannot be resolved by this informal dispute resolution process, you or Supercell may initiate an arbitration in accordance with these terms of service as described below in the case that Supercell cannot identify an email address or billing address associated with your ID or game account. This section will not apply to Supercell, and it may be immediately initiated as arbitration as follows. 8.2 Arbitration. You and Supercell agree to resolve any disputes exclusively in final and binding individual arbitration as follows. Either you or Supercell may choose to submit any dispute for resolution exclusively by final and binding arbitration unless the claim is within the exceptions described below. These arbitration proceedings shall be conducted on an individual basis only, meaning the dispute is solely between you and Supercell. If you or Supercell brings a claim in court that can be resolved by arbitration under the section, either party can ask the court imagine a jury on this shit, ask the court to order the parties to resolve the claims by arbitration. Our arbitrator will have the exclusive authority to decide whether any portions of Section 8 dispute resolution is valid or enforceable, or whether it applies to a claim. An arbitration proceeding will be held before a single neutral arbitrator. This means you and Supercell agree to give up the right to resolve the dispute in a trial before a judge or jury. Arbitration has different rules than more formal lawsuits. For example, the liability to force the other side to share information that may be more limited than the process called discovery in formal lawsuits. After the arbitrator decides the outcome, decision will be final. You or Supercell can ask the arbitrator to put a decision or award and the reasons for it in writing. Either of us can ask a court to confirm or enter the arbitrator's final decision or award, which will make it the same as court judgments. You and Supercell will generally not be able to change the outcome or arbitration through the courts outside of very limited circumstances. 8.3 Arbitration Process. The arbitration will be run by the American Arbitration Association, AAA. What's up, Canada? How you doing? Italian, AAA's rules and rules. I love rules. And procedures will be used for the arbitration, including the consumer arbitration rules, but there's a conflict between these terms of service and AAA rules and procedures. Then we'll follow these terms of service. To review AAA's rules or to start arbitration, you can go to AAA's website. In either of us to decide the arbitration, we agreed to provide the other parties with a written demand of arbitration as specified to the AAA rules. The fees for arbitration will be determined by AAA's consumer arbitration rules. If the arbitrator decides that the fees are excessive, Supercell will pay the fees. Oh, thank God. Each side will pay their own attorney fees and costs unless the claims allow the prevailing party to recover attorney fees and costs, in which the case the arbitrator may award them under the AAA rules or applicable law. If either party challenges the validity of the arbitrator's decision or award them through the subsequent court case, that party will pay its own costs and attorney fees associated with the challenge. The arbitration will take place either in San Francisco, California, USA, in the country or province where you reside, or virtually through Zoom, really through Discord. 8.4 Exceptions to the agreement of arbitrage, or to arbitrate, You and Supercell agree that the informal dispute resolution process in sections 8.1 and arbitrage agreement 8.2 will not apply to the following disputes. Claim about Supercell's intellectual property, such as claim to enforce, protect, or concerning the validity of Supercell's copyrights, trademarks, trade dress, domain names, patents, trade secrets, or other intellectual property rights. Claims related to privacy or tortious interference. Claims are not subject to an arbitration agreement as a matter of law and are not permitted by federal law that would allow for the agreement to arbitration. I'm about to freaking pass out right now. Okay, we're almost there, gamers. Claims in a small claims court. Any dispute not subject to arbitration under these exceptions shall be resolved by a court of competent jurisdiction as described in Section 10. Venue for disputes not subject to arbitration. 8.5 No class actions. You and Supercell agree that we can only bring claims against each other on an individual basis. That means you cannot bring a claim against Supercell as a plaintiff or class member in a class collection, or representative action. The arbitrator cannot combine any other person's claims with yours to a single case or preside over any class, collective, or representative arbitration proceeding. The arbitrator's decision or award in your case will not apply to anyone else and cannot be used to decide other people's disputes. If this section 8.5 no class action is found to be unenforceable or invalid, then the entirety of section 8, including section 8.1, shall be void. 8.6 Mass arbitration. If 25 or more similar arbitratable disputes, for example, your dispute against Supercell, are filed by or with the assistance of the same law firm, group of law firms, organizations, or the representation that is consistent or coordinate across the cases, these will be considered mass arbitration cases and will be proceeded in accordance with the AAA's mass arbitration supplementary rules for consumer mass arbitration. You acknowledge and agree that depending on the circumstances, if you choose to file your individual claim as a part of mass arbitration, the resolution of your dispute may ultimately be resolved via global mediation or proceed to a court of competent jurisdiction. You or Supercell may advise to the other or belief that certain cases are mass arbitration cases and disputes over whether a case meets contractual definition of mass arbitration case, which will be decided by the arbitration provider as the administrative matter. Holy fuck. Demands for arbitration filled with the arbitration provider as the mass arbitration shall only proceed as permitted by the process set forth in this section. Any applicable limitations provide periods, including statute of limitations for claims asserted in a mass arbitration case, will be told from the time a valid dispute notice has been received until the global mediation described before is complete, or the claim is otherwise settled, withdrawn, or resolved. Once the opposing party, e.g. Supercell, in the case of disputes against Supercell, has been notified that all or substantially all mass arbitration cases has been filed with the arbitration provider, and before the initiation stage of the mass arbitration is complete, counsel for the parties shall confer in good faith regarding the number of cases that should proceed in the arbitration as bellwether cases, to allow each side a reasonable opportunity to test the merits of its arguments. Only the mass arbitration cases selected as bellwethers will proceed beyond the initiation stage of the mass arbitration, and neither party will be required to pay per case fees for cases that are not selected. If counsel for the parties cannot agree on the number of bellwethers, each side shall select 5 cases from among the claimants who have provided valid dispute notices, and only selected cases will proceed. Oh my god, I can't do this shit. Mass arbitrations, if counsel for the parties cannot agree on the number of bellwethers, the arbitration provider or the arbitration provider's discretion, the processor's arbitrator determines that more than 10 bellwethers are warranted, the arbitration provider or processor provider may be even higher, even numbers of bellwethers to not exceed 10% of the mass arbitration cases of 500, whichever is lower. Again, each side will select half of any additional bellwethers. The parties agree that a limited service neutral shall be appointed to serve in the role or process arbiter as described in the AAA's mass arbitration rules, either by the arbitration's provider in its discretion or by select agreements by the parties, unless the parties agree otherwise. Each bellwether case shall be assigned to a different arbitrator that will decide the claims. Only bellwether cases will proceed in arbitration. For a case that proceeds as a bellwether, you and Supercell additionally agree that the following processes shall apply to make the resolution more efficient. The scheduling order settings for deadlines across the bellwether cases, including deadlines for the submission of documents, witnesses lists, completion of discovery, and filing of motions, shall be implemented. The process of arbitration or limited service neutral appointments to fill that role shall oversee administrative and procedural issues in common to the cases such as discovery, choice of law, and statute of limitations, and motions during these proceedings. The bellwether cases shall be heard on the documents rather than in by-person, telephone, or video conference hearings. Testimony via affidavit or recorded disposition shall be employed rather than requiring live witness testimony. The awards shall be in writing executed in the form of a manner required by law, and shall provide consents, written reasons for the decision under the parties agree otherwise. Once the weather cases has concluded, or sooner, should counsel for the parties agree that the parties will engage in single-loaded mediation of all parties' marriage arbitration cases within Supercell paying applicable mediation fee. Counsel for both parties must agree on a mediator within 30 days after conclusion of the final bellwether case. But if they are unable to agree on a mediator within this time of the arbitration case, or the process arbitrator will appoint a mediator as the administrative matter. Parties will cooperate for the purpose of ensuring that the mediation is scheduled quickly as practical after the mediation is appointed. If the global mediation does not yield a full resolution for all mass arbitration cases, this arbitration requirement shall no longer apply to the mass arbitration cases that were not resolved in bellwether cases. Such cases will not proceed in arbitration, may only proceed individually in courts subject to the applicable law Section 9 and venue Section 10 clauses of these terms of service. In such these cases, you consent to venue exclusivity of these exclusively in these courts. Nothing in this paragraph shall be construed as prohibiting either to you or Supercell from removing a case from state to federal court if removal is allowed under applicable law. A formally arbitratable dispute is brought in court. Claimants may seek class treatment, but to the fullest extent allowed by applicable law, the classes sought may compromise only mass arbitration claimants who provide compliant dispute notices or filed mass arbitration cases. If this section applies to your dispute with Supercell, and if any exhaustion of all appeals, this section is found to be unenforceable or invalid, then the entirety of Section 8 shall be void and the dispute will be resolved in court subjective to the applicable law Section 9 and venue Section 10 clauses of these terms in service. 8.7. Opt out of arbitration agreement and no class action provisions. You may choose to opt out and it may not be bound by arbitration agreement of no class action provisions above Section 8.1 to 8.6, sending written notice of your decision to opt out legal requests at supercell.com with the subject arbitration and class action waiver opt out. You must send this notice within 30 days of your first use of this service or availability of this opt out, whichever is later. If you do not send us a notice within that time, you'll be bound to arbitrate disputes in accordance with within the terms of these paragraphs. If you opt out of these arbitration provisions, Supercell also will not be bound by them. 8.8. Alternative and online dispute resolution. If you are a consumer based in the EU or EEA, you may make the use of the online dispute resolution platform offered by the European Commission as an out-of-court alternative to resolve disputes. You may also recourse to alternative disputes resolution and refer a dispute to the Consumer Disputes Board or any correspondent out-of-court intuition of your domicile. Number 9. Applicable law. If you are a resident of the United States or Canada, 1. The United States Federal Arbitration Act, including its procedural provisions, governs the interpretation and enforcement of the agreement to arbitrate, and no class action provisions of Section 8 and 2, and disputes arising out of or related to these terms of service, the privacy policy, or the service shall be governed in all respects by the laws of the state of California, USA, without regard to conflict of law provisions. If you're a resident outside the United States and Canada, which is fucking none of you, you agree that any claim or dispute arising out or of related to these terms of service, the privacy policy, or the service shall be governed by the laws of Finland without regard to conflict of law provisions. 10. Venue for disputes are not subject to arbitration. If you are a resident of the United States or Canada, you agree that any claim or dispute you may have against Supercell that is not subject to arbitration under Section 8 must be resolved exclusively by federal or state court located in San Francisco, California. You and Supercell consent to venue and personal jurisdiction in San Francisco, California for all such claims or disputes. If you are a resident outside the United States and Canada, you agree that any claim or dispute you may have against Supercell must be resolved exclusively by a court located in Helsinki, Finland. Number 11. Servability. You and Supercell agree that if any portions of these terms of service or of the Supercell privacy policy is found illegal or unenforceable in whole or in part of court of competent jurisdiction, such provision shall, as to just jurisdiction, be ineffective solely to the extent of such determination, oh my god, a lot of fucking words, or unenforceability without affecting the validity or enforcement thereof in any other manner or jurisdiction without affecting the remaining provisions of the terms shall continue to be in full force and effect. Well, 1.2 General provisions in 12.1 Assignment. Supercell may assign or delegate these terms of service and or Supercell privacy policy in whole or a part to any person or entity at this time with or without your consent. You may not assign or delegate any rights or obligations under the terms of service or privacy policy without Supercell's prior written consent, and any authorized assignment and delegation by you is ineffective. 12.2 Supplemental policies. Supercell may publish additional policies related to specific services such as forums, contests, or loyalty programs. Your right to use such a service is subject to those specific policies and these terms of service. 12.3 Entire agreements. These terms of service, any supplemental policies, and any documents expressly incorporated by reference herein, including the Supercell privacy policy, contain the entire understanding of you and Supercell, and supersede all prior understandings of the parties hereto relating of the subject matter herefore, whether electronic, oral, or written, or whether established by custom, practice, policy, or precedent between you and us with respect of the service. 12.4 No waiver. The failure of Supercell to require or enforce strict performances by you or any provision of these terms of service by Supercell privacy policy, or failure to exercise any right under them shall not be construed as a waiver or relinquish of Supercell's right to assert or rely upon any such provision or right in that or any other instance. The express waiver by Supercell of any provisions, conditions, or requirements of these terms of service or Supercell privacy policy shall not constitute a waiver for any future obligation to apply such provisions, condition, or requirements, except as expressively and specifically set forth in these terms of service. No representations, statements, consent waivers, or other acts or omissions by Supercell shall be deemed a modification of modifiers, of these terms of service not nor legally binding unless documented in physical writing, hand signed by you and a duly appointed officer of Supercell. 12.5 Notices. We may notify you via posting in our games on supercell.com, via email or any other communications mean to contact information you provide to us. All notices given by you or required from you under these terms of service or the Supercell privacy policy shall be in writing and addressed to Supercell OY, attention legal, FI 00180 Helsinki, Finland, with a copy to legal request at supercell.com. 12.6 Equitable remedies. You acknowledge that the rights granted and obligations made under these terms of service to Supercell are of the unique and irreplaceable nature of which the loss of which irreparably harms Supercell, in which cannot be replaced by monetary damages alone, so that Supercell shall be entitled to injunctive or any equitable relief without the obligations of posting any bond to surety or proof of damages in the event of any anticipatory breach by you. You irrevocably waive the right to seek injunctive or any equitable relief, or to enjoin or restrain the operation of the service of any Supercell game, exploitation, or of any advertising of other materials issued in the connection therewithin, or exploitation of the service or any content or any material used or displayed through the service, and agree to limit your claims to claim for monetary damages limited by Section 7, if any. 12.7 Force majeure. Supercell shall not be liable for any delay or failure to perform resulting from causes outside the reasonable control of Supercell, including without limitations to any failure perform hereunder due to unforeseen circumstances or case caused beyond Supercell's control, such as acts of God, war, terrorism, riots, embargoes, acts of civil war, military authorities, fire, floods, accidents, strikes, or shortage of transportation facilities, fuel, energy, labor, or materials. Thank you all for reading today's Supercell. I'm killing myself. This took way too long. I'm such a bad voice person. I'm so sorry. That was so garbage. Guys, subscribe. That's right. Bye.